Hi, and welcome to this video. My name is Janis, and I want to share with you how you can make some simple Berlin School patch with Syntakt. And it's not going to have super many tracks, and it's fairly minimalist. We have two pluck sounds that sound like this. We're also going to add a bass. And we're also going to create some lead sound that is really fun to play, so we can actually use the keyboard. And I'm going to share with you how you can set up all those sounds and also how you can create those sequences. And this being said, let's jump right into it. We start with an empty patch, so we get all those default sounds. And I was mainly using those lower three sounds here, 9, 10, 11, because those are the analog engines. And for this Berlin School type sound, I really enjoy those classic, simple analog synth type sounds. You can use any other sound, of course, but these are just my preferences. And also later, we're going to use one digital one for this kind of melodic synth lead type sound. 9 and 10 are basically plucks. And for making those, I really like the Syn Raw engine, because it basically gives you those few options that you need for making those simple analog synth type sounds. And I'm also going to turn down oscillator 2 because we only need one. Actually, here I picked one square wave and one sawtooth wave. Maybe we start with the sawtooth wave. Oh, and it's really important if you change from a percussive sound like 9 to a more melodic sound that you change the envelope. Otherwise, you get this everlasting trigger. Now we want to make it shorter, so we create some short envelopes, especially for the filter and the amp. So we bring down the sustain. And make sure the sound is nice, short and snappy. And also some drive always makes the sound a little more interesting or a little more singing. Little bit of resonance. Because often you hear those synth sounds in Berlin School that they have this nice little resonant peak that makes them sing a little more as well. Now, the sound is still super dry, and if you listen to Berlin School, you notice that there's often a lot of reverb and a lot of delay, because it's all about the space, because you compose certain notes for the sequences, but they sing even more because there's space and repetition that comes through reverb and delay. So let's also set this up already, so we're more in the vibe. And we can add some, let's actually start with the reverb. It's too short because we don't get the kind of nice long reverb tail that makes it more atmospheric. So let's actually go to the reverb. I always like to filter it a little bit. And then for some people it might be too long. I like those nice long reverb tails. Let's actually start like this and also check out the delay. And we need the tempo actually, because otherwise it's a little, it doesn't really have a definition rhythmically. I was choosing a rather slow tempo, which is like 89, and maybe for getting some idea of the delay, we just compose a little sequence with quarter notes. So we get a little pulse already. I actually like the ping pong, making it a little wider. Also, the delay can go into the reverb. And then I like dotted eighth notes. So if we get this kind of rhythm. It's very typical for lots of Berlin School tracks. Actually, the feedback is a little too long. I mean, this is up to taste, but I'm gonna turn this down a little. Now we can create our first sequence. And as I mentioned, with Berlin School, you use the repetition of the delay a lot. So if you have one trigger, you get many more, so you don't have to program so many notes. And actually something simple like this would sound really cool to just make a C on one quarter note, and then to put, for example, like a G to another quarter note. It's a fifth. It's still not really defining major or minor, but I personally like minor tonalities a lot, so we're going to pick just a minor tonality. It's simple here to use C minor, so let's just go with it. But for now, let's just try those two triggers. And I also feel like it sounds probably nicer if we put this an octave higher. And then you can always refine the sound on the go. So now I feel like we could use a little more decay. There will be more modulations later, but I always like to make it like a process where I adjust things on the go. So if there's a sequence that I like, I might realize, okay, actually it sounds cooler if I change the sound a little in this direction because it sounds better with those tones. And then I just do it. So I wouldn't separate the process totally, making like only the sequence, focusing only on the sequence and then only on the sound. I think it's like some ongoing process of tweaking everything at the same time. With Syntakt, when I realize, okay, this is actually a very simple sequence, like only those two triggers, in quarter notes, we can also, in case we want to make some longer sequence, already go to the page. The page. I also like to already select the individual pattern lengths. And the scale we can turn down to half because it's a very slow melody, and then I actually find it easier because I have more triggers on one page compared to having lots of non-used triggers in between on the 16th note grid. And here I think I made it like 2 pages. So in total it's like 4 bars. And we can keep it super simple. So let's go back here to the sequencer. Do we still have some notes? No, we don't. So what we just did is this, but now with this page setting, we can put the second trigger here. And this one we just changed to G. We can repeat it once. Repetition is always nice. And then for the third bar, because those are like 2 bars now, we basically changed the second note to G sharp or A flat. Actually, enharmonically correct would be A flat because we're in C minor. Because the change between G and A flat in minor tonalities is super beautiful. I like it a lot, and we're going to listen to it in a second. Yeah, that's it. So let's start on the first page. Oh, and actually we still only hear our first idea because we have to change the maximum length. Here you see the maximum length also on the pattern page. And now our individual pattern is longer than the maximum length. And the maximum length is always like the ultimate length that you can have for individual sequences. After this length, everything just gets reset. So here we have to change it to, I thought 32, but it's actually 64 because we are thinking in half time, because those are actually already 4 bars. So 1 bar has 16 steps. So we need 4 bars, 4 times 16. So we have to change this to 64. We can also pick infinite here, and maybe it's okay because we're making those sequences that constantly overlap anyway. So let's set this to infinite. And then we should actually hear the new tone. Yes. And I feel like in the end there should be another note here. And now we can actually define minor by choosing a D sharp, or actually enharmonically correct it would be E flat. So let's also add this one. Now, since we have one cool pluck already, we can simply copy it to sound 10. So we press track 9 copy and track 10 paste. So we have it here as well, but we simply change it to a square wave. So we have a different sound. But they nicely complement each other. And one typical Berlin School technique is to have those sequences having individual lengths. So here, let's head over to the track menu again. Actually, we have to select track 10. And we can actually this time stay in the original tempo, but change this to 24. You can see it here already. So we have 1.5 bars, which is actually quite interesting. So it's like a group of 6 times 4/16 notes, or however you want to think. However, it's going to nicely overlap over the basic sequence that is defined in like 4 full bars. And then we can simply look for some positions where we want to have the notes. So I was actually using position 4 and 11, and actually on 4, I think I just had the root note, which is like a C, maybe an octave higher. It's actually pick C6, and this can be a simple scale fragment. So we use D, which is the second position of the minor scale, and maybe here we use 1 again, and we use the minor third again, and let's see how those two sound together. So there's some ongoing motion, and it's not really possible to hear it as one sequence idea that always gets repeated in exactly the same way. They always overlap on some different positions, and that makes it super interesting to listen to it. And that's a very simple concept on how you can create this type of sound. For creating bass sounds, I also like synth raw a lot, so we're going to use track 11 now. And for creating this nice analog vintage synth type bass, we need 2 sawtooth waves. Detune them a little. Overdrive really helps. Maybe some lower octave even. It's very low, probably we're better off here after we tweak the filter a little. And the amp, we don't need sustain, so you always need to tweak those envelopes a little. Can use a little bit of the reverb. Maybe the delay, let's not use it for now. Sometimes with the synth sounds, it needs a little bit of tweaking, so I might be here a while and see where the sounds sound the best. It's not like you open it and it sounds perfect immediately. It's always a little bit of tweaking, but that's usually how I'm looking for those sounds. By the way, if you don't always want to create sounds yourself, and would like to have this nice library of sounds that sound inspiring, sound useful, sound cool. Actually, there are many of them in my synth pack for Syntakt, because I created a full bank with, I think it's 256 sounds that one bank can hold for Syntakt, with lots of drum sounds, kick drum sounds, but also very melodic sounds and some inspiring sounds for loops where you get modulations based on triggers. So they are great as a starting point that you can use for creating a nice loop and putting other stuff around it. But it can really get you started making music with Syntakt, and also it's not all static sounds, they really sing. And if you're interested in this sound pack, you can find the link down below in the description and check it out yourself. Before programming a bass sequence, I usually like to play around a little with the keyboard function. So let's enable the keyboard function. Also, if you're not super experienced with music theory, just pick a minor scale. So you go to Aeolian, that's actually the natural minor in C. And if you fold it, you also have 2 octaves, which is nice. You want to create some more bass. And then you basically go through some notes where you feel like, until you feel like, okay, those are cool. So if I play the sequence, C is great as a root note, but then maybe something descending. It's the A flat again. Maybe here. And we have a nice bass line. So I knew already that I'm going to use those pitches, but just as a little playful exercise that you can do, because I feel like here you can get lost in the sequencer all the time, and sometimes it's nice to play even if those pads are not velocity sensitive. And we're going to play even more in a second, but let's first create a bass line. And here I was again slowing down the overall tempo because I knew, okay, I'm not going to create some fancy 16th note bass sounds. It's more about giving the music some structure and also having the bass on some solid position that you can hear where the one is of a bar or where the bars are, so you're not completely lost, which can also be nice because right now if you listen to the sequence you can easily get a little lost. And I think I was using, I don't know, was it 2 bars? 3 bars. So we make it 84 and we start with the root note. And I think I like to have a second one triggered on, it's like 1, 2, on the 2 basically. Maybe some more. And then for the next round we actually go to the lower pitch, which was the, here it's G sharp. You can use the same rhythm. Actually you could also copy those triggers, but I'm gonna do it manually now. Oh, and I made the mistake that I was going up now, so we have to go down, of course. So to the G sharp 4 instead of G sharp 5. Yeah. And now we have one more round where we go to the F. I mean, this is just my melody. You can also use other pitches, of course. I like this repetition of the bass note for some reason. So we go dum, 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 again, F. And here we go to G. So instead of staying for 2 bars on the same pitch, in the end, we actually add some additional one. So it sounds like this. I like it. We can think of adding maybe one more note in the first section, like because here I think it would be nice if while going from C to A flat or G sharp, it's nice to have like a A sharp or B flat and harmonically correct in between. This one. Sounds quite nice. Now, it sounds super, super cool, but what bothers me a little is that it always sounds exactly the same in terms of sound. There's no sound modulation. And here comes one of my absolute favorite Syntakt parts, which is the LFO that you can use for randomly send out a different value per trigger. So every time there's a trigger, it sends out a random value and you can set it to any destination. So let's do it for our first sound. I actually muted those other ones. And you change to random LFO. You select hold. So there's only going to be one value. And there are some that I often use, for example, the intensity of the filter envelope, so the envelope depth. So now the tempo is actually irrelevant because it's only sending out a trigger per step. And if you listen to it now, you will hear that we will get actually a different filter intensity and therefore a different sound with every trigger, and it never exactly sounds the same. I'll just exaggerate. So I would keep it at a milder setting. This is always some tweaking. You might also want to go back to the filter menu and increase the amount here and see how it sounds with the LFO applied. So again, you can get lost a little here in tweaking, but I just want to show you the basic idea. And assign, because you have two of them, you can, oh, I actually start with LFO2. So the other one you can assign to, for example, the decay of the filter. So sometimes you get those super short plucks, sometimes they're a little longer. And it's some effect I also like a lot, especially if we're going to assign it to the other sound as well. So it immediately sounds way more interesting. And let's assign it to our other sound. We can actually hold down LFO and press copy. So we copy it to this sound and paste it. And we also copy the other LFO. Which one did we actually copy now? The decay, so we also need the filter. LFO copy and LFO paste. So we can listen to both sequences. Actually, we can bring back the bass as well. Also, I changed the maximum length to 96. So sometimes we actually reset the whole sequence. Before it wasn't infinite. It's up to taste. I felt like this way I actually keep the bass structure, so it always relates to the same notes in the melody, which makes it sound a little cleaner. But it could also be running completely independently, would also be fun, but just that you know. And if you want to know the exact settings of this patch, because I was tweaking it a little now, as I mentioned, it always takes a little. I'm gonna link you the patch down below in the description, so you can download it for free. Where you can also find the link to my Syntakt sound pack in case you're interested. And also, if you're interested, I'm offering one-on-one coachings as well. So if you get the sound pack or you have the Syntakt and feel like, okay, I connect to the way you teach and you would like to know some more, could also be some other music production related topic. Maybe you're thinking about how you can get closer to your musical idea, or you make your sounds more exciting, maybe finish more music. We can cover all of that. So if you're interested, just check out all the links down below in the description, and you're warmly invited to reach out. But for now, there's one more cool bonus sound that I have here on position 6. So it's the Synth Swarm engine. So now this is a digital one, but I like it a lot because I'm actually sharing the settings with you here. You can get those nice detuned sound effects. So if I increase this knob, for example, you get this nice detuned sound, and you can also get some deep octaves. I don't like this one here because we have quite a lot of bass already. You can add some. This also messes with the tuning. You can add some noise, which I don't need so much here. I just want to have this nice detune effect. And you can see I also filtered it a little. The amp looks like this, reverb and delay, as with the others. Actually, I added a little bit of LFO to the pitch, so it's a tiny pitch modulation. We don't hear it so much, and actually there's a lot of detune already, which is great. And we can play it now. So if I select the keyboard mode, we have 2 octaves of C minor, and they all tones sound kind of cool together with the patch we created. And also you can make use of the portamento, which is this setting. So if I play now, it sounds like this, but if I increase the portamento, it slides to this note, and it's really fun to play. So I just jam a little together with those other tracks, that you can see how fun it actually is, because most of the tones actually work. There's not so much you can do wrong here. so funny, especially those long slides, because now we're covering 2 octaves, going from a C 2 octaves higher to another C. It takes a lot of time if you use a high portamento setting. But it might also sound super cool if it's shorter. Unfortunately, the Syntakt pads are a little limited. So they are not velocity sensitive, because Syntakt gives you super cool options for saying, for example, okay, the velocity has some impact on the filter envelope, or maybe also on the modulation amount. And then you can play super expressively. And actually, there's a video I made about using external controllers with a Syntakt and unlocking lots of possibilities. I'm going to link it here. Otherwise, here's my playlist with all my Syntakt tutorials, and there are quite some at this point. And remember, there's a sound pack. You can download this patch for free and also reach out in case you're interested for some one-on-one coaching. And this being said, I wish you lots of inspiration with whatever it is that you create, and really hope to see you soon at this channel. Bye.